Well, here's some good news for you. South Florida is about to get a much-needed economic boost. The Volvo Ocean Race will help bridge the lull between spring breakers from the north and other visitors from South America and from Europe. Reporter Connie Hicks tells us the short-term jackpot could be just the beginning.
Hey, you're going well, guys. Keep it up. Keep working hard.
In 2 days, 8 stripped down.
You live on your hands and knees in these boats.
Yet very expensive boats.
This is more extreme. This is probably one of the most extreme sports in the world.
Sail into Miami, an arrival that's expected to pump some $60 million into the local economy. As many as 20,000 hotel rooms could be booked.
This is the first U.S. port. It's an entertainment city. We know that the level of corporate entertaining here is going to be pretty significant.
But the Volvo Ocean Race, formerly known as the Whitbread, didn't plan on stopping here.
I heard that Volvo bought the race and essentially was not going to bring, they weren't going to bring the race to Florida. And I thought that would be a mistake, and I thought coming to Miami would be pretty good.
Jim McDonald got things started.
I knew that we needed to get funding and we needed to hire professional staff,
which persuaded the big corporations willing to spend $10 million or more on a 9-month race.
That's the kitchen, that's the toilet.
With a crew willing to endure the most primitive of living conditions weeks at a time.
You're cold and wet for 90% of the time, regardless of the weather conditions.
Miami is the 5th stop in a 37,000 nautical mile race that began last September in England. What would the crew want to do when they get to Miami?
Pretty much hit the dock and have a beer, I guess. A lot of the guys have family that have joined them along the line, you know.
Supporters of the race are hoping that it will have a secondary effect, too, that city leaders will start to look upon Biscayne Bay not for the development of condos and high-rises, but for things nautical.
As a mini version of an Olympic village is built at Bayside.
This race has already begun to focus people's attention on the water. We're also saying, let's use the water. Let's do something downtown besides sit and look at it, because we're refocusing world attention on Miami as a destination for these kinds of global sailing events.
In Miami, Connie Hicks, Channel 10 News.
It's a mad, mad world out there, and some of the most adventurous sailors in the world just pulled into South Florida.
The Volvo Ocean Race around the world has millions of dollars in sponsorships, yet there's no purse or prize, only bragging rights.
Todd Tongan took the 10 taxi down to Race Village today to welcome the sailors.
It is a race of both speed and endurance, crossing all 4 oceans, touching 5 continents, and ultimately traveling over 32,000 nautical miles around the world.
3, 2, 1.
The professional sailors on board are on call 24/7, and the work is grueling, often in difficult conditions.
We're not kind of sunning ourselves and lying on the decks doing anything. Every minute of the day is full of things to do. The wind changes every second. We have to change the trim of the sails. We have 16 sails on the boats, and when the wind conditions change, we put a different sail up. Not unlike a Formula One racing car when they have different tires for different track conditions.
Neil McDonald and his crew from Asa Abloy won the Rio de Janeiro to Miami leg, but there were some nervous moments.
We stopped 6 miles from the finish line and went backwards. The tide took us away. And we were in a position where we thought we had a comfortable lead. We were going to just cruise across the line. We're almost at the stage of congratulating each other, and the wind just shut down, and then all of a sudden it's open to everybody else to catch up.
They managed to hold their lead, but it just points out in this sport, you're at the whim of Mother Nature.
The most unusual features of this particular race have been the tornado we had in Sydney, which is not something you come across very often, and untold number of icebergs in the Southern Ocean Lake. That's pretty unusual.
Now, it's a great big ocean out there, so you would think there wouldn't be any mishaps, but this race is so close and so competitive. On the last leg, 2 boats actually hit each other. Team SEB hit Team Ilbrook, and there's considerable damage. The cruise will be in port for about 3 weeks, but it is anything but downtime. The boats are completely stripped, and all the necessary repairs to the boat and sails are made. The public's invited down to the Race Village to see these majestic vessels, and then it's off to Baltimore on April 14th. Todd Tongan, Channel 10 News.
you are looking at a live picture outside our downtown Miami studios at the American Airlines Arena, the village you're looking at for the Volvo World Ocean Race. And last night, some of those vessels taking part in that Volvo Ocean Race sailed into South Florida.
Nice view we had there, huh?
Absolutely.
They're in town to rest and make some repairs before they take to the high seas for the next leg of the race. Ari Adzer is live at the Volvo Ocean Race Village with more.
All right. Jennifer, you know, you don't have to be into boats to think this is cool. Take a look behind me over here. These two boats behind me have been lifted up into dry dock to make repairs. And from this angle, you really get a sense of how small they are. These aren't cruise ships we're talking about, yet these guys sail these boats all the way around the world through incredibly inclement conditions at times. It really takes a lot of guts to do that. And as these boats started coming in very early this morning and we started talking to the sailors coming off, you start realizing that every boat has a good story aboard. The leading boats didn't see the lights of Miami until early this morning, after 20 days at sea. A big moment. The first boat arrives at the dock. Everyone's exhausted.
Oh, man. Just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It's been such an incredibly close race.
How hard have these last 24 hours been?
They have been mentally very tough.
But mentally, you go nuts.
One boat limps in just after sunrise. Its hull damaged from colliding with another boat, but that doesn't dampen anyone's enthusiasm. Gunnar Krantz hasn't seen his daughter Emma in 2 months.
How good it is to see Emma again on a scale from 1 to 10, probably 11. And it's a 1 to be away from the family so much as I am, but that's part of the game.
Every boat has an arrival party. They blared classic rock for these guys. Smiley Smith's 9-week-old daughter decided to make her debut in New Zealand just before Dad had to ship back out.
It's been very hard. The Auckland-Rio leg was especially hard, the Southern Ocean leg, knowing that they were safe and sound at home, and I was out there with icebergs and big waves and the extremes this race can give you. That was pretty tough.
The race is ridiculously grueling. The crews work almost constantly, subsisting on freeze-dried food away from their families. So getting back to land is a good thing, but these guys will soon be anxious to feel the wind in their sails again.
The future is bright for us, so we're going to use sunglasses.
That guy said that because his team finished first and his boat is in the overall lead of the race. We've moved our vantage point right now. We're actually on board one of these boats, and there's 6 of them that have come in today. 2 of them are still out at sea. They're expected to be back sometime late tonight or early tomorrow morning. And one of the most interesting things I found about this is that these guys aren't doing this really for money. There's no big prize to finish first. They get paid by their sponsors, but all they get for finishing first is a trophy. They're truly doing this just for the honor, and that's really remarkable. And as far as you and the public are concerned, if you want to come out and see these boats, you can do so. They'll be here for about 2 more weeks as they recuperate before they take off to Baltimore and then back to Europe for the finish in France. I think actually it's in Scandinavia where they're going to finish. Live in downtown Miami, Ari Adzer, NBC6.
All right, thank you.
An around-the-world regatta sailing through South Florida tonight. The 8-boat fleet racing from England to Rio de Janeiro. But they are stopping in Miami just long enough to talk to 7 Sports reporter Mike DePasquale.
It's a grueling challenge of man versus the elements. Over 32,000 nautical miles racing around the world.
You're going out man against nature and the ocean for weeks at a time and battling extreme conditions.
Overnight, crews arrived in Miami after completing the 5th leg that started in Rio de Janeiro 17 days ago. The race began September 23rd in Southampton, England. It will cover 5 continents and cross 4 oceans. It ends in June in Kiel, Germany.
We're sailing as hard as we possibly can, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The boats carry crews of 12, crammed inside quarters that barely can accommodate them.
A sink and a little storage underneath, and these are the start of the bunks on either side.
Sometimes I think to myself, why do I do it? Other times I think to myself, this is wonderful, this is great. You know, you don't get sailing like this anywhere in the world.
For the next 14 days, these boats will be docked here in Miami, where crews will undergo complete overhauls,
From checking the 9 onboard computers to the sails, making adjustments. It's sort of like taking a race car into the pits before you go out to race again.
We'll be here for a little over 2 weeks. Boats will come out of the water. The masts will be taken out. The boats will be serviced, gone through, make sure everything is up and working and ready for the next leg.
In Miami, Mike DePasquale, 7 News.